And now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
What is going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another special episode, Casa D18 Studios Reviews, right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel. Like yesterday, like all this week, we're going to be doing little reviews of wrestling documentaries as we continue our road to Wrestlemania. Yesterday, we took a look at Superfan, the story of Vladimir, one of the original wrestling superfans. Today, we're going to jump from the fans to the final boss. And we're going to take a look at and discuss the epic journey of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. This documentary, this biography, was released by WWE back in 2012 as we were on the road to once in a lifetime John Cena versus The Rock at WrestleMania 28. So it's been almost 12 years since this came out. However, in the grand scheme of things, there hasn't been a whole heck of a lot to add to this documentary as far as story goes. The biggest things would obviously be WWE and the merger with Endeavor, TKO, The Rock being a member of the board now. But as big and monumental as that stuff is, it's insignificant to the greater story of The Rock. We start off this documentary with The Rock's mom, Atta Johnson, and she talks about the birth of Dwayne on May 2nd, 1972. We then transition to the wrestling history laid down by his grandfather, the High Chief Peter Maivia, and his father, Soulman Rocky Johnson. Rock talks about being at the Dallas Sportatorium with the Von Erichs and Madison Square Garden with Vince McMahon. We learn about his football career, All-American in high school, national champion at the University of Miami, and his stint in the CFL, the Canadian Football League, with the Calgary Stampeders. But when football wasn't as successful as he had hoped and injuries began to plague him, he made the transition and started training to be a professional wrestler. He talks about training in a 16 by 16 boxing ring instead of your standard 20 by 20 wrestling ring. Once his father, Rocky Johnson, feels that he has gotten to a certain level, Dwayne reaches out to Pat Patterson, who puts Dwayne in touch with Vince McMahon, Jim Ross, and Dr. Tom Pritchard. It's now November 17th, 1996, and Rocky Maivia, as he's now known, is about to make his debut at Madison Square Garden. 3 months later, Rocky Maivia becomes the Intercontinental Champion for the first time, defeating Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Triple H, who would become one of his first, best, and longest standing rivals, at least in my personal opinion. However, Rocky Sucks chants are starting to begin as the WWF is shifting in what will become the Attitude Era. Rocky gets injured in 1997, and when he returns, he turns heel and morphs into The Rock, joining the Nation of Domination. We then chronicle the rise of The Rock within the nation and how he usurped Farouk as the leader. The rivalry between the nation and D-Generation X, and by proxy, going back once again to the rivalry between The Rock and Triple H. We then get to the Survivor Series in 1998, the Deadly Game Tournament, And The Rock, having been getting cheered by the crowd organically, wins the WWF Championship for the very first time, and then pulls the trigger, turns heel once again, and becomes the corporate champion. We then discuss The Rock's rivalry with Mankind, Mick Foley, going in depth about the I Quit match from the 1999 Royal Rumble and how that rivalry helped get The Rock prepared for WrestleMania 15 and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now The Rock has organically transformed back into a babyface. And we talk about the genius of The Rock's audience interactivity. We then talk about the hilarity of The Rock and Sock Connection, the tag team that you never thought that you needed until you watched their segments live as they unfolded. Peaking with the This Is Your Life segment hosted by Mick Foley on September 27th, 1999. When Stone Cold Steve Austin goes down with an injury at the end of 99, The Rock steps into the vacant number one superstar role and takes the World Wrestling Federation mainstream. When Austin returns, we begin to march into WrestleMania 17 in early 2001, and The Rock gets defeated by the returning Texas Rattlesnake. However, despite his defeat, he begins his transition into Hollywood with a starring role in The Scorpion King, the sequel to The Mummy Returns. Mummy Returns was his first Hollywood film, and they do touch on it briefly, but for the sake of the greater bio, we just started with The Scorpion King. We then see some of The Rock's best zingers on Stephanie McMahon, Lillian Garcia, Jonathan the Coach Coachman, and others before transitioning once again to the return of Hulk Hogan to the World Wrestling Federation. It's now WrestleMania 18. The Rock versus Hogan. Icon versus icon. A highlight of The Rock's career. He then leaves to make the rundown, and when he returns, he receives a thunderous applause. However, when he returns once again after making Walking Tall, he begins to notice that the audience is starting to turn on him. After his defeat at SummerSlam 2002, where Brock Lesnar defeats him for the WWE Undisputed Championship, he turns his back on the fans, turning heel once again, and he morphs into what would become Hollywood Rock. WrestleMania 19 comes, and The Rock finally defeats Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania in the middle of the ring, having fallen to the Rattlesnake at WrestleMania 15 and 17. Rock would then spend most of 2003 in Hollywood before returning just in time for WrestleMania 20, for the Rock and Sock Connection to reform to take on the Evolution contingent of Randy Orton, Batista, and Ric Flair. Rock would then leave WWE completely for 4 years, returning just ahead of WrestleMania 24 in order to induct his father and his grandfather into the WWE Hall of Fame. After that night, he would leave again, and he would not return until February 14th, 2011. It was Monday Night Raw, Anaheim, California, and we were about to be introduced to the guest host of WrestleMania 27. The lights went out, and they showed this electricity almost zipping and zagging across the arena on the Titantron, on the screens around the building. And when it stopped, the Rock's music would hit, and he would be announced as the host of WrestleMania. How do I know all these intricacies? I was there when this happened. I'm not going to lie to you. I was teary eyed when The Rock returned home, and I was in the building to see it. Much like I may get emotional this Saturday when I actually get to do color commentary for a match of The Rock's. On the Raw after WrestleMania 27, The Rock does something unprecedented, having never been done before. He issues a challenge to John Cena for the main event of the next year's WrestleMania. We then begin to end the documentary, and Vince McMahon has phoned The Rock, and he wants to celebrate The Rock's birthday on television. And this would be his 39th birthday in 2011. He would then turn 40 in 2012. And I know the age of this time because we celebrated The Rock's 50th birthday across the Casa D18 Studios channel back in 2022 by reviewing some of The Rock's movies. We then see some footage from the Survivor Series 2011 as The Rock teamed with John Cena to take on The Miz and R-Truth, the Awesome Truth, showing the fans that he never lost his step in the ring. The fans still chanting, "You still got it." And the video begins to wind down from there as we do not get footage of Once in a Lifetime. And The Rock just briefly once again talks about what an amazing journey it's been. These almost 40 years of his existence at this point, and the documentary comes to its close. I feel like the epic journey of Dwayne The Rock Johnson is one of the best DVD documentaries that the WWE has ever released. And I'm trying to really look at it from an objective standpoint and not a biased standpoint, because ever since I became a fan in the summer of '98, I have been gravitated towards The Rock. The Rock has been my number one. I was his fan when he was Intercontinental Champion. I was his fan when he went corporate. I was his fan when he went babyface again. I was his fan during Rock and Sock. I was his fan when he went Hollywood. I didn't care that he kept leaving the company to go make movies. Where so many of his fans and the WWE fans turned their back on him and distanced themselves from The Rock because he kept leaving to make movies, I looked at it as a great business move because here's the biggest star in the business branching out to Hollywood and exposing us to a new set of fans. The fan base was growing then. This was a fantastic thing. I still don't get why everybody hates on him for going to Hollywood. And then he would come back, and then he would leave, and he would come back, and he would leave. And I'm fine with that because when he had the free time, he gave it to us willingly. He didn't have to. When he had the free time, he could have been at home with Simone and Danny, his daughter and wife at the time. but he gave that time to us. And we showed our appreciation by turning our backs on him. I always thought that was messed up. One of the biggest shows I've ever been to was that Raw in Anaheim where he made his return. The roof literally damn near exploded off of the Honda Center. It was a moment, and I was there for it. What do you guys think of the epic journey of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? Let me know. Those of you that are watching live, leave your thoughts and comments over here. Those of you that are watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down here. But let's engage in some conversation about it. Let's have some discussion. Are you a fan of The Rock? Are you not a fan of The Rock? Do you feel that we unjustly turned our backs on The Rock? Let me know. Let's have some conversation. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, when I will be reviewing American Nightmare Becoming Cody Rhodes. Thursday, it'll be Becoming Immortal, the Bray Wyatt story. And Friday, it'll be Ladies and Gentlemen, My Name is Paul Heyman. So much more in store to discuss and review right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel. You're not going to want to miss out on any of it. Thank you all for joining me and tuning in today. And until tomorrow on the Cody Rhodes American Nightmare documentary, I will see you guys next time.
The Jeff Meacham Network's Multiverse of Media. For over 15 years, the recognized symbol of excellence and the standard bearer in coverage of sports and entertainment.
Thank you, JJ. Appreciate you.